General Hospital spoilers tease that Sonny is entering the most dangerous phase of his life, as the heart condition that has been kept hidden for so long finally spirals out of control. After months of silently enduring pain, ignoring symptoms, refusing proper medical intervention, and keeping his health condition secret from his loved ones, Sonny is slowly collapsing. The chest pains are becoming more intense, his breath weaker, and his consciousness starting to fade. Once considered invincible in Port Charles, Sonny has now become a symbol of fragility, both physically and in terms of power. At a time when Sonny is facing the risk of total collapse, Ava is the only one who knows the full truth about his health. In a world where information is power, the secret of Sonny's weakened heart is the trump card Ava holds in her hands, and she is choosing to keep it quiet. She hasn't shared it with Carly, hasn't told Christina, and hasn't warned Jason. Ava remains silent. But this silence isn't indifference. It's calculation. Ava has been hurt by Sonny, both in terms of her honor and self-esteem, and in her role as a mother. She was dragged into a custody battle, pushed to the brink of losing everything, threatened, and belittled. Yet, now the tables have turned. Ava can clearly see that the man who once pushed her to the bottom is now floundering between life and death. And when Sonny collapses, once again struggling for breath in desperation, Ava will be the witness, the only one holding the chance to either save or end it all. The explosion lies not in the diagnosis, but in Ava's choice. Her silence, keeping Sonny's condition hidden, not alerting anyone else, is creating one of the most dangerous turning points for the future of both of them. She's not a doctor, but she knows enough to understand that if Sonny misses a dose or delays surgery, everything could become irreparable. And she knows that if that happens, Sonny will no longer be an obstacle in her life. But can she live with that decision forever? Beneath her cold exterior, Ava is not completely indifferent. She also understands that if she saves Sonny, not just saving his life, but securing her financial future, her custody rights, and a debt of gratitude that Sonny will never be able to forget, it could be her ticket to redemption. She knows that in the world of power and backdoor deals, the life of a powerful person is often more valuable than their downfall. And if Ava keeps Sonny alive, she will not only gain respect but will also reclaim the upper hand in a way no one expects, through calculated salvation. However, keeping this secret for too long could backfire. If Carly or Jason finds out that Ava knew and didn't speak up, if Sonny discovers that she could have saved him sooner but let him suffer alone, forgiveness might no longer be an option. And at that point, from a savior, Ava could become a betrayer, no matter whether her actions were driven by calculation or concern. Meanwhile, Sonny, who still doesn't know the full truth, continues to try to regain control over his life, fighting against threats from the WSB, protecting his family, and worrying about Christina, Michael, Gio, and Avery. But this struggle is pushing him faster toward his limits. His body can no longer bear his ambitions, and his scarred heart can't keep fighting. Eventually, when Sonny collapses, whether at a party, in a meeting, or in his daughter's arms, the secret of his heart condition will no longer be able to stay hidden. And when the truth is exposed, all eyes will turn to Ava, the one who could have changed everything, the one who held the life of an icon in her hands. Will she be seen as the savior or the cold-blooded betrayer? Port Charles is about to witness a new and dangerous chapter, where Sonny's weak heart is not only a medical issue but the center of a storm of politics, emotions, and power, a place where every heartbeat could be his last. Sonny is spiraling into an inescapable whirlwind as his heart condition, long simmering beneath the surface, becomes a real threat, not only to his life but also to the image, position, and power he has painstakingly built over the years in Port Charles. Once a man considered invincible, Sonny knows well that a weakness, whether physical or mental, can become a fatal flaw in the cutthroat world he lives in. That's why he's done everything he can to keep his condition a secret, from prying eyes of enemies, from the pity of his loved ones, and from the whispers in the shadows that could undermine his position. But the more he tries to hide it, the closer he edges toward a breakdown, as each pain grows more intense, every dose more critical, and each decision harder to make in his weakened state. As Sonny tries to hold on to that fragile control, Ava is the one who holds the key to the entire secret. No one else knows that Sonny is facing a serious heart condition. No one but Ava has witnessed the moment when he collapsed, sweating, struggling for breath, with life-saving pills just inches away. Ava has seen it all, sensed the vulnerability Sonny always tried to hide behind his tough exterior. But she hasn't said a word, hasn't warned anyone, hasn't shared it with his family, because Ava knows this is her chance to change the game that once left her at a disadvantage. Ava, the woman who was publicly humiliated by Sonny in the custody battle for Avery, who was deemed unworthy to stand by her own daughter, now has the opportunity to reverse it all. A single action, saving Sonny in time, could put him in her debt forever. No threats, no court battles, no public confrontations. All she has to do is wait for the right moment, and she can save him in a way that Sonny cannot deny, ignore, or brush off. And that will open the door for her to re-enter his life, not as an enemy, but as someone with bargaining power. However, keeping this secret too long, watching and waiting silently, is making things more dangerous and chaotic than ever. Sonny still believes he's in control, still presents himself to the public as a strong man, still makes decisions for Jason, Christina, and his underground business network as if his heart has never skipped a beat. But he doesn't know that every step he takes is being closely watched by Ava, who is carefully planning her move, waiting for the right moment to either end it or save him. What's even more dangerous is that Sonny still thinks he has time, while Ava knows the truth, his time is running out. No one but Ava understands that if Sonny collapses now, everything he's built could fall apart, and in that chaos, she could easily rise to claim what was once denied. But she also knows that if he dies, she could lose her chance at making him indebted to her, at strategically rebuilding her position. So Ava is preparing to make her decisive move, saving Sonny not out of goodwill, but out of strategy. She needs him alive, but alive to owe her, to protect her, to accept her back into his circle of influence, and even to publicly side with her in custody, financial, and political battles in Port Charles. Sonny, however, still clings to the illusion that his secrets will die with him if necessary. But the truth is, it's Ava, the woman he once dismissed, who now holds the power to determine his fate. And in a world where every piece of information has value, where emotions are tools, and where cracks in the heart can bring down an empire, Ava's decision will be the turning point that forever changes the course of General Hospital's storyline. The question now is no longer whether Sonny will survive his heart disease. The real question is, when he survives, thanks to Ava, will he still be the Sonny he once was? Or will he be a completely new man, weaker, more dependent, and indebted to the one he once tried to rid from his life? And if that happens, Port Charles will never be the same again. Because when Ava holds the power of life and death in her hands, everything once destined can be rewritten, in the way she chooses. Sonny is taking on a difficult task, mending the long-standing rifts between Ava and Christina, two women who have been deeply involved in the most tumultuous chapters of his life. Although the relationship between them has been strained for years, filled with tension, anger, and distrust, Sonny patiently intervenes, not through power or pressure as he might have in the past, but with the calm of a man who knows he is facing the limits of both time and health. With a fragile heart but a growing understanding of the importance of family, Sonny begins to view all his relationships with a new depth, more profound, more empathetic, and also more vulnerable. Sonny's decision to take the initiative to reconnect Ava and Christina is not just an act of reconciliation, but also part of a larger strategy to restore balance within his own family. After all the losses, divisions, and misunderstandings, Sonny understands that a true family cannot operate on blood alone, but must be built on trust, forgiveness, and the ability to move beyond the past. And to achieve that, he must start with the biggest crack of all, the cold, antagonistic relationship between his former enemy, Ava, and his strong yet vulnerable daughter, Christina. In this healing process, Sonny doesn't expect an unexpected catalyst to emerge, Avery, his young daughter, innocent yet more empathetic than anyone. Avery has witnessed her parents' past confrontations, their bitter court battles over her custody, and the cold distance between them. But now, her eyes light up when she sees them speaking normally, taking her to school together, laughing during family meals, even if just for a moment. For a child, the most wonderful thing is not extravagant gifts, but but the peaceful presence of those who love her most. And it is Avery's innocent smile, her simple happiness at seeing her parents stand together, that unknowingly causes both Sonny and Ava to pause, reconsider, and then act differently. Avery's joy not only moves them but also draws them closer together, breaking down the emotional walls they have built over the years to protect themselves from pain. Sonny realizes that when he stops seeing Ava as a troublesome woman and begins to see her as a mother who loves her child to the fullest, a woman who has changed, things start to feel easier. For Ava, who has always been on the defensive, she begins to understand that Sonny is no longer the ruthless man she once thought him to be, but a person battling with his own health, his own fears, and the possibility of losing everything he has left. From these seemingly small moments, a new advantage is beginning to form between Sonny and Ava. No longer enemies, they start to see each other through the lens of companions, not necessarily with love, but with a connection based on responsibility, empathy, and even a fragile trust. The fact that they can appear together in front of Christina without creating tension, that Ava is beginning to respect Sonny's relationship with his daughter, and that Sonny is no longer stubborn about protecting only what he thinks is right, all of this is creating a new, vague, but potentially powerful alliance. However, behind it all, there are still unanswered questions. Will Christina truly let go of her prejudice against Ava? Will Ava maintain the right boundaries as Sonny grows weaker from his heart condition? And is Sonny dangerously putting himself in a vulnerable position by allowing Ava back into his personal life, not through schemes, but with a gentle yet calculating presence? Certainly, every small action between Sonny and Ava now is no longer solely for Avery. They are slowly evolving into an emotional strategy, a new network of connections that could affect the entire Corinthos family. And if Sonny truly wants to keep those he loves safe, from Christina to Avery, he must accept that Ava is no longer on the sidelines, but is gradually stepping into the center, helping him control the situation in ways neither of them expected. In the ever-shifting world of General Hospital, where life and death are separated by a fragile heartbeat, Sonny and Ava's ability to find compromise in their complicated relationship might be the turning point, not only for their family but for the future of power in Port Charles. Sonny is entering a particularly complex phase in his life, where power, emotions, and loyalty are no longer defined by the clear boundaries they once were. Amid the growing threat of his heart condition, with family relationships faltering and his underground network shifting, Sonny chooses to do something unexpected. He becomes the financial savior of Ava, the woman who had been a thorn in his side for many years. Ava, after a series of failures and chaos in her business plans, is now struggling under mounting debts, investors turning their backs, and a series of poor decisions that have nearly left her bankrupt. Even the risk of losing custody of her daughter, Avery, starts to loom again as Ava no longer has the financial resources to provide a stable environment for her child. While Ava is slowly losing everything that once made her stand tall in Port Charles, a new legal storm is beginning to form, this time centered on Rick Lansing, the man who is using every legal trick to seize her remaining assets. Rick, a sharp and calculating lawyer, believes he has the upper hand. He quietly sets financial traps around Ava, lures her old business partners, resurrects unfavorable legal clauses, and secretly inserts harsh terms into old contracts. Rick's goal is clear: to force Ava into a position where she has no choice but to rely on him, making her easy to control, manipulate, and eventually take everything she has left. But Rick didn't anticipate one thing: Sonny. Sonny emerges like a ghost in the middle of this battle of negotiation and manipulation, quietly pushing Rick off the board by paying off Ava's large debts without asking for anything in return. This seemingly noble act carries a deep, strategic calculation. Sonny doesn't need paperwork to control Ava, he needs her gratitude, a moral obligation, and an emotional dependency, things that make it hard for her to refuse any future request. While Rick starts to panic, losing his legal leverage over Ava, Sonny silently creates a safe cage for her, where she is no longer the weak prey, but a woman being protected, with a voice as long as it doesn't go against Sonny's wishes. It's a kind of control that is subtle, not forced, not bound by contracts, but still makes it difficult for anyone involved to escape the web of loyalty. Ava, once independent and unyielding, begins to realize that Sonny is no longer just the man who saved her from collapse, but the only one who can protect her from people like Rick, from public opinion, and from the old wounds that have haunted her. Sonny's presence becomes more significant. He's no longer her adversary, but her ally, the one who lifts her up when she needs it most. In Avery's eyes, her parents have finally been able to sit down, talk, take her to school, share meals. But for Ava, what matters more is the sense of security she never thought she'd find in Sonny, a strange, scary, but very real feeling. And as Ava accepts his help, Rick finds himself spiraling into defeat. Not only does he lose control of his finances, but he also becomes a victim of his own power play. Sonny doesn't publicly humiliate Rick, doesn't knock him down in the press. He makes Rick lose everything by making all of Rick's moves useless. No longer having legal advantage, no longer able to threaten Ava, Rick becomes a forgotten pawn in a game where Sonny is always the best player. Through it all, the story is no longer just about who saves whom. It has become a web of power and control, where favors, moral debts, and emotional connections are more binding than any legal contract. Sonny is rebuilding his position, not with weapons or revenge, but with calculated mercy, something that makes his opponents owe him something they will never be able to repay. Port Charles, once accustomed to a harsh and oppressive Sonny, is now witnessing a new Sonny, calm, strategic, and more dangerous than ever. And at the center of that storm of power, Ava stands beside him, not as an enemy, but as a carefully protected pawn for the larger game that is about to begin.